Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your very first time here to the channel, welcome. And to all of you on New Tech, BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, I appreciate all of your guys' shares, likes, and comments recently. I really appreciate that. And of course, all of you here on YouTube, to include all my old school subscribers who drop in from time to time. I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
All right, guys, so we start things off from CBC, the Canadian news article here. Experts warn that Canadian weapons shipped to Ukraine could end up in the wrong hands. Weapons being supplied to Ukraine now could be seized by the Russian military or end up on the black market. Now, that would be a very interesting and dangerous situation, but not unlike other war scenarios that we've had in the past. But it would seem that, you know, when you're in an somewhat impoverished and war-torn country, you might consider selling a few things off for money, but we still don't know the full details, of course. The risk of Canadian weapons shipments being lost, stolen, or otherwise misused is growing as the war in Ukraine enters a chaotic and uncertain new phase. And with shipments of Canadian weapons still due to arrive in Ukraine, some are warning that parts of those shipments could end up on the black market or be turned against the Ukrainian people by the Russian military or local parliamentary groups. Now, as we understand it, the Russians are trying to cut off entry of those supplies into the country, either from Poland or other parts of or the surrounding countries around Ukraine. Most of it seems to be coming through Poland, and they bring it in through trains and trucks. And I believe that, as we understand it, the Russians are trying to target those entryways, so it is kind of interesting. And here from CNBC, U.S. plans to announce another colossal military aid package for Ukraine. I think at this point it is no mystery. There is no mystery that the United States, the UK, and fellow NATO nations are supplying a tremendous amount of weapons and supplies to the Ukrainians. The Russians are not dumb. The Russians already know, but I am pretty confident the Russians do not want to go up against NATO, much less the US or the UK individually, or even Japan, if they should get into an issue over there in the Kuril Islands just north of Japan. So lots of interesting things going on. And, of course, we continue to supply them. Excuse me. Washington, the Biden administration is expected to announce another substantial security assistance package for Ukraine this week. 5 U.S. officials familiar with the matter. Not certain about the matter. Not entirely sure about the matter, but they're just familiar with it. The package is set to be about the same size as the $800 million military aid package President Joe Biden announced last week. 3 of those officials said. Now, we got officials, we got people that are familiar, people that are uncertain, and, of course, unnamed sources. But, of course, nonetheless, I'm just trying to make light of part of that. But, yeah, we have sent a lot of money in the neighborhood of $3 billion. There's some howitzers here, which I understand they've sent 2,000 of them, I believe is what one of my fellow YouTube creators, Speak the Truth, said the other day, former U.S. Army sniper. Here's some of the U.S. Army, U.S. soldiers work on their vehicles at a temporary base installed close to the Zasau Jacinko Airport, southeastern Poland. That was in February the 16th, 2022, so it's quite some time ago, actually. But amazing. And then from the New York Times, the U.S. races to arm Ukraine with heavier, more advanced weaponry. So as things get more sophisticated, of course, you need soldiers that are familiar with the usage of this equipment. And if they aren't, then someone has to be on the ground to teach them and instruct them, either from the UK or from the United States. I'm sure there's probably individuals there. I know there's individuals from the United States and the UK and other parts of the world, Germany perhaps too. They're helping and training these individuals. And so as you get more sophisticated with the equipment, of course, then you have to, obviously, as I mentioned, instruct these individuals so that they can use them properly, just like why we can't just send them F-35 Raptors or Hornets or more advanced aircraft or even tanks and stuff, because the pilots there and or ground people, tankers, they're going to have to learn how to use them. They're going to have to learn how to fly them. And, of course, they're native-owned and easily recognized by the Russians. And so here we have it from Yahoo News. U.S. military aid to Ukraine surpasses $3 billion under Biden. Here's what's been provided. Now, in my personal opinion, and many other individuals, I'm not saying that I am part of these experts. I'm simply saying that I truly believe that if President Trump were president, this would probably not happen. Now, that's not to suggest that Russia may not have waited for another opportunity under a different administration, under a different president. Of course, they could have done that. They obviously waited after they invaded Crimea, and then President Trump became president there in 2016. Then, of course, they just kind of sat back and waited. But nonetheless, Washington, more than 1,400 Stinger anti-aircraft systems, about 5,500 Javelin missiles, more than 7,000 small arms, and 50 million rounds of ammo. Lots of ammo. Vowing to stand with Ukraine, President Joe Biden and his administration have committed nearly $2.6 billion in U.S. military aid to Ukraine since Russia's invasion in February 24th, supplying a range of weapons for Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression. Yes, that would be the Russian military operation, I believe, is the way the Russians identify. Now, I'm not trying to make light of the situation. It's absolutely awful. War is a terrible thing. It is ugly. It is not an inconvenience that Ukraine is experiencing. They are experiencing things that I can't mention on YouTube. I'll just say that people are losing their lives and losing their homes, and it's not great. And so I'm glad that we're assisting them. Now, I believe there's two different scenarios that I'd like to just mention here. And I'm not saying this any way to aggrandize or to support or to encourage or to show any favoritism towards Russia. I'm just simply saying that I think if Russia did go full scorched earth, I think NATO would back off. I think when push comes to shove, if Putin goes full scorched earth, starts launching some low-yield nuclear weapons, not full ICBM kind of things, but low-yield type nuclear weapons, I think NATO and them would back off. I think they would probably start encouraging Ukraine to maybe come to the negotiation table. But again, that's just my opinion, my thoughts, some thoughts that others have had as well. And I'm glad that the U.S. and the U.K. are involved. I truly believe that Russia does not want to engage with NATO or the U.S. or the U.K. or even with Japan. They don't need another front to have to deal with, or they don't want another front, say, from Japan and the Kuril Islands, of course, and then, of course, just other nations around them. But we'll have to see what Belarus continues to do, what they end up deciding to do, and maybe other nations around Russia, what they might employ. But here's what's also equally as interesting from the Libertarian Institute. Of course, here on the BuzWeaver channel, of course, we try to give you news from across the different spectrum. White House has almost zero ability to track weapons it sends to Ukraine. Now, this kind of falls in line with the Canadian story, to make it a little more balanced, not to make it look as though Canada is completely incompetent and incapable of knowing where their weapons are going. Most of them probably do, but, once it's in country, you really don't know. Once once Amazon sends your package to you and you get it, they have no idea what you're going to do with it. They just send it to you. As a U.S. official said, the White House has almost zero ability to track the weapons it is sending to the Ukraine. So far, President Joe Biden has approved over $3 billion in arms shipments to Kiev. So here it's a U.S. official, not someone familiar, not an unnamed source or someone somewhat familiar, but U.S. officials. So it is interesting what's happening there in Ukraine, and I empathize greatly with what's happening there with all the individuals. I am still watching Operator Starsky, who I am very glad to say is following me on Twitter. I watch him daily, as well as Speak the Truth, the Army, or I don't know if he's retired or not. He's Army sniper. And there was a British guy I was following as well, but I try to keep up with a lot of the content there. I don't always talk about it here on the channel because YouTube is obviously very sensitive to the matter, and of course they don't want us to aggrandize and show any sort of support for the war in any form of way, like an encouragement, whether it's Ukraine or whether it's Russia. They just and it makes perfect sense. These are people that are actually losing their lives over there. This is not a LARPing group of activists that we see here in the United States that LARP and pretend that they're oppressed and experiencing these terrible, awful times. Well, kind of under Joe Biden perhaps, but these particular individuals. There's no LARPing here. These are actual individual citizens that are suffering from it. And these are just some updates I wanted to bring to you from the war in Ukraine this Friday.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments, and to all of you on BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey for your guys' continued support. And of course, below this video, for all of you who haven't already, you can find the various social media sites that I belong to, and you can see my daily posts there. And of course, all of you here on YouTube, you can see that channel icon appearing right there on the screen. Thanks to all of you guys for your support. You can click on that icon to subscribe, as well as to get notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel, to include video shorts, which I am now doing more of. I want to thank all of you guys, always. I hope you guys have a great Friday, and I will see all of you next week right there behind that camera.